Hi there. My name is Lærke Nielsen, and I'm a love and confidence coach for strong, independent women. I help women transform the relationship they have with themselves so they can have better relationships with a partner. And that is whether you are single and looking to meet someone, or you are already in a relationship, or you are getting over someone, you are going through heartbreak, and you want to get the learnings and see your own patterns so that you can move forward in a much better way. This masterclass is called Chemistry and Connection, and I have decided to create that because what I have experienced as a need from both my clients and also women that I've talked to on calls and on other masterclasses in the real world and so on, everything I hear from women who are dating, I can see that there's a need here. So I want to take a moment and explain a little bit about the background for this before I jump into giving you the three tools that is the key of this masterclass. I hear so many of you tell me that you are trapped in the situation where you either meet someone that's very hot and attractive, but just not emotionally available, or you meet someone who is very available and very interested in you, but just come across as a bit boring to you. So you decide to not give them another chance. You have only one date. You decide to let attraction and chemistry guide you in whether you want to see a man again. And if you're not feeling it on the first date, you end the connection and you don't see him again. Now, there's three reasons why this is a problem. And the first one is there is basically no correlation between a man being attractive and you feeling the chemistry and the sparks and all the hormones in your body, and then his abilities or your abilities together to form a healthy long term relationship. Those are two different things that have nothing to do with each other. So it is not a good guide to look at whether you feel attracted or not. And as I also say in one of my posts, it's almost like letting the color of his car decide whether you want to see him for a second date. This has nothing to do with his abilities to be a healthy long term partner for you. The second reason it's a problem is instant attraction on the very first date. It is actually a little bit scary to think about because you don't even know the guy yet. So, what is it that you are attracted to? Why are you attracted to him? What's really going on here? And very often it has very little to do with him. It is subconscious triggers. It is your own patterns that are activated. Your nervous system is activated because of some programming from the past. He could be reminding you of someone you used to date. There could be some familiarity over it. Very often, what is drawing you towards him is not necessarily something healthy. The fact that you feel attracted to him on the first date, it's not necessarily a healthy sign. So you want to pay attention to that. You want to be alert when you feel a strong sense of chemistry and attraction on the very first date and wonder to yourself, why is that? Why do I feel this now? Why am I triggered by this? And triggered in a positive way because it feels positive, even though it's sort of a fake guide. Don't trust it. It has nothing to do with what you can create together on a longer term. And then the third reason it's a problem to let attraction, early attraction, guide you in dating is that you miss out on the good guys. There could be someone that you just can't spot because you don't feel attracted to him. And that could actually be a very healthy and very good long term partner for you that you just never get to know because you didn't feel attracted on the first date. And that is too bad for yourself. I really think this is a shame. I don't really care about the guys. It's about you being able to spot the right guy, giving the connection a chance to develop and see what is the potential here between us. And this brings me to this guide because this is why I have created this. Because you can actually do something yourself to facilitate the creation of a fun and romantic atmosphere. You can build chemistry and you can deepen the connection in early dating by doing a few things, or at least what you can do is if you do these things, you can at least see if there's a potential for this to develop. You are bringing your own part of the work here and helping the connection to develop a little bit. And what I'm going to share with you are 3 very simple tools that you can use. And I want you to choose to use them on the guys where you can see there is some good potential in terms of him ticking the boxes objectively, him showing up, showing you interest, prioritizing you, spending time with you, following up after a date, and wanting to see you again. And there should be also one more thing. There should be one thing that interests you, something that you're curious about. You want to get to know him more, but you don't need to feel attracted to him. If this is a situation with a man, you want to use these tools to see, can it develop into something more? And I recommend that with this kind of guy where you have the green flags, you have something that interests you. And the only thing missing is that you don't feel attracted to him. With this kind of guy, you give him 5 days. 5 days. It's not a lot of time when you think about looking for a lifelong partner. It's not a lot of time. And if something comes up during those 5 days that really freaks you out and you see really big red flag, of course you don't continue there. But if it still continues to be okay, calm and steady, everything is positive, doing all the right things, there is still something interesting about him. You just lack a little bit this attraction. You want to continue, give him 5 dates and maybe continue even longer. But then at some point, you have to make a decision. If you still don't feel attracted to him after 2 months, it might not be the right person for you. So I'm going to give you 3 tools that you can use in early dating. At the end of this masterclass, I'm also going to give you 2 bonus tools. So stay tuned for that. And the first one is sort of a bucket that has the title, Make Him Feel Great. Make him feel great by showing him appreciation and giving him compliments. Now, before you freak out and say, why should I make you feel great? You should make me feel great to the same extent. I'm going to wait until he does something, then I'm going to give him something back. He needs to earn it, he needs to deserve it, and all that. I want to just share with you that you can actually be the one who's leading in the emotional part of a connection. You can be the one who shows him appreciation before he even says something. You can give him a compliment before he gives you a compliment. It's not a problem. We still want him to be the one who takes the action. We want him to invite you and to follow up and all that. But in order to really make it absolutely clear that he has the green light to do that, he has permission to do that, and you are interested in developing the connection and seeing him again, you want to show him all that positive energy on the date. Do not think of it as something he got because he deserved it, or something where you're giving him something and you're not getting something back. That's not the way you want to see it. You want to think of it as what it says about you and how you want to show up in a dating connection. And I want to invite you to see yourself as a woman who can always find something to compliment in a man. A woman who can always express her appreciation. It's a warm and positive trait that goes very, very well together with being in feminine energy. You're a woman who can make a man feel so great that he wants to see her again. And then you get to choose. You're the one who chooses if you want to see him again. It's not a question of you chasing him or following up or being nervous about why didn't he ask and so on. If you can switch that around and make sure that a guy always feels so great in your company that he wants to spend more time with you. Not only does it impact the connection, because of course if he feels great in your company, he's also going to be more positive and more invested in the connection. It also means that you get to spend more time with him until you make a decision whether you want to continue or not, and you are the one who chooses because he always wants to see you again. Of course, it's not always the case, but in many cases, it will be so if you bring this positive energy to a date. And also another thing, especially if you are high achieving, very competent woman, very strong, independent, and you're used to doing a lot of things on your own, a man can maybe feel that it's going to be a little bit difficult with this woman because she doesn't really need me. And then if you show him that you appreciate and you notice the little things that he does, he's going to feel, okay, maybe I can actually win with her. Maybe I can have success with her. And it's not like we want him to not make an effort. Of course, we want him to make an effort. But we also don't want him to give up ahead of time and thinking she's completely difficult and she's so hard to get and she's so out of my league. So I better give up ahead of time. We don't want him to think that either. So it's opening the door a little bit and showing him, hey, I'm someone who notices when you do something and I appreciate it and I mention that. Appreciation is something you can do already before you meet him. You can actually appreciate that he invites you. You can tell him that you really have enjoyed the chat and you're looking forward to see him and you appreciate that he has organized a date, for instance. You can tell him if you have a phone call before the date, you can also tell him that, hey, it was so nice to speak to you. I appreciate you took the time to call and so on. And then, of course, on the date, you can show him a lot of appreciation for having taken the initiative, and you can also do it afterwards. There's a lot of examples in the PDF guides, and it can seem very basic, but it's really just a question of getting into the habit, expressing it when you notice something that you feel is a positive thing he does. Don't be weird and fake about it. Don't say something you don't actually mean. But pay attention to expressing it and not just keeping it in your mind and thinking that, of course, he can read that or thinking I shouldn't be too positive because then he thinks I'm over eager and then he doesn't have a challenge here and it's too easy for him. I don't want you to think like that. I really want you to think of yourself as someone who is very good company on a date and very good at making him feel good because then he's going to want to make an effort and follow up and invite you again. Now, many of us are not really in the habit of showing our appreciation. Can depend a lot of the culture you are from or where you grew up. And then I want to invite you to try to practice a little bit. Practice with your friends or your colleagues. Try to challenge yourself to show or express your appreciation 3 times a day, for instance. And just notice how people react. It is such a small thing to do and really makes a big difference. He will usually become really happy and sometimes almost surprised and really glad that you notice something and you express that. And the cool thing about appreciation is that it is a bit the same as gratitude. It's basically expressing something you feel grateful for. And therefore, you will also feel better yourself. It feels good to give that appreciation to someone. And I personally think, and this is also what I teach when we talk about our relationship with ourselves. It's really about turning the focus back to yourself and asking, who do I want to be in dating? How do I want to show up in dating? Not what does he deserve on the first date? Who do I want to be? What do I want to bring to a potential connection here? This is the way you want to think about it. And the same for compliments. There are some examples in the PDF guide also. I would advise you to try to give a compliment that is really showing that you see below the surface. Compliment something in his personality. Don't necessarily compliment that he has built a really good business or he's achieved something in his career or a sports performance or something, but think about what did it take for him to get there and then compliment that personality trait or that strength that he has, courage or discipline or commitment and so on. Compliment that because it shows that you see a little bit below the surface and maybe you were giving him a compliment that he doesn't hear that often. If you can find something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, that is really great because he will remember that compliment. And you don't have to give him a ton of compliments on a first date. Actually, I think choosing one very powerful and maybe a bit unusual compliment that shows you have really noticed who he is, what he's all about, or at least you have your interpretation about what's going on behind the surface. One compliment like that is enough. He's gonna think, wow, I never heard that before. No woman ever told me that before. That's an interesting compliment. It's gonna think more about that and remember you as someone unusual, someone that he doesn't just forget about like that. And again, it's not about waiting for him to deserve it. You want to again think about this as this is a capacity that I have. This is a competence I have. I can always find something to compliment in a man that I'm on a date with. And if I can find absolutely nothing, there's something wrong with me, or I shouldn't be here on this date. So you can always find something, unless, of course, it was a big mistake even meeting him. So look at the examples in the PDF and find some inspiration there. And if you worry about boosting his confidence too much, I would say you also can see a bit about the person he is in how he responds to that. A healthy masculine man, he's not going to be full of himself. He's not going to start to just talk even more about himself and not even listen to you, or almost become a little bit too selfish. This is not a good response if he does that. A healthy masculine man is going to feel very flattered. He's going to think that is so cool that you can see that. And then, of course, he's going to give you a compliment back at some point. So don't worry about this. This is your contribution to making him feel good. And again, it's not about being fake or weird. Choose something you actually mean and then let him know. So that was the first tool, the bucket that's about making him feel great. Now, it's not all about being sweet and making him feel great. It's also about challenging him. And this is something you can do by asking him different questions. Now, we want to have this mix of sweet and salty, so to speak. If you master that, if you can make him feel really great, and at the same time, you can rock the boat a little bit and challenge him. Ask him questions that make him think. Ask him questions that show that you are someone who's thinking, you have intentions, you're not just here to kill time. You want something with your love life. You're someone who's thinking about things in general, and you're looking for someone who does the same. That is a very good combination. And the purpose, of course, is twofold. You get him to answer some questions, and of course, you will share your own response. So you get to share some of the things that are your standards and values, or even boundaries. And you also show him on a meta level the kind of person you are in the kind of questions you ask. Now, why does that even have anything to do with chemistry, you can ask? Part of this is also just building the connection. And part of this is also showing him that side of you that can tease him a little bit or challenge him a little bit, but in a light and playful way. So I want to say you can basically ask him any question if you do it in the right way, if you do it in the right tone. And you can also ask a very simple question. If you do it in a very serious and heavy way, he's going to feel intimidated and he's going to feel like he's being cross-examined. So it's very, very important to do this in a light tone, a confident tone, and in a way that shows that it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to ask this question. And you are not there to push him. You're not there to cross-examine him. You're not there to interview him. You're just there to get to know him. Now, when it comes to the questions, just a little warning here. I don't want you to throw a lot of these questions at him on the very first date. On the very first date, you want to just choose something more light and fun, and maybe a bit of some silly question, a bit of icebreaker questions that can sort of make him smile, make him tell a story, make him share a little bit some of the funny things about himself. But don't go too deep into these very big existential questions about relationships and how he sees women and so on. Not on the first date. Keep those for later. Keep those maybe for the third date. Except one thing. There's one thing I think you definitely should ask on the first date, unless it's absolutely clear and you already had this conversation on the phone or on the video or in the chat. That is, you want to make sure what he's looking for. You want to make sure that you guys are aligned and he is not like, I don't really know and I'm going to just see how things develop and let's see where this takes us and so on. And you want to find someone you can marry and have a family with. If you want a serious relationship, you want someone who is definitely either specifically looking for that or very open to that. So not someone who's wishy-washy. And this is something you might as well get out of the way on the very first date. So you want to ask him that as early as possible. But all the other questions about relationships and how he sees women and so on, you can ask him later on. Okay, there's a lot of questions in the PDF guide, and some of them are about women and relationships. For instance, what is a healthy relationship to you? What kind of woman do you admire? you can get him to talk a little bit about that. See how much did he even think about that? What are the qualities he value? And from there, you can even move into talking about what are the important things in a relationship. Because that, of course, is also a reflection of the person. This is the person who has good communication qualities. Is a person that's curious. Is a person that's growth-minded, and so on. This is a way to open up and talk about that, which can be, of course, very heavy. So you don't want to do this on the very first date. There's also a question like, what is something you always wanted in a relationship but you haven't found yet? That's a question that's going to make him think. And maybe you want to keep that for third or fourth date. And you want to think about your own response to that as well. And if you can absolutely find nothing, then you're lucky, because then you had only great relationships so far. You can find something, of course, but think of a response before you ask him. In general, have your own response to all these questions. How do you want a woman to add to your life? That's a question that can show you how much else does he have already in his life. It's basically indicating that a partner is an addition, and everything else, there's already a good base. You want to know what is the good base he already has, and what is the extra thing he wants from a relationship. And you can share the same from your own side. Those are important things to agree on, that you are aligned with having each your separate lives, having already a life on your own, and then meeting, coming together, creating a common life, but still having your separate life, and what that looks like. So it can open a whole long discussion about how you each see the role of a partner and how you see the rest of your life and how that functions together. I'm going to mention a few more questions, and then I'm going to ask you to just look in the PDF guide. There's a question like, when do you feel the most alive? That's like a more light question. It's not about relationships, but it's also something that can show you what is he really passionate about. What does he do in the weekends or on vacations? Where is it that he actually really feels, now I'm living my life, now I'm having a great time? If you had an unexpected day off, what would you do? How would you spend that day? Something that also shows you what he likes to do. And then there are some more fun and light questions like, what is something that you're really good at, but that is generally useless? Or what is something you suck at? So those are questions that can maybe make you laugh a little bit and have him open up about some of these things. And you can share on your own side as well. You get a chance to show your more quirky side if you have that, and you get a chance to laugh a little bit about that. So questions, the more serious they are, the more you want to ask them in a fun and light and playful tone, and do not ask him all the serious questions on the first date except the one about what he's looking for. Save the more serious ones for maybe around third date, and don't ask him like a million at the same time. Ask him maybe just one or two on a date and see how it develops. Because some of these questions, you just need to ask one, and then the conversation unfolds and you talk about a lot of the things that are related to. So you don't need to have a lot of questions prepared. These kind of questions are also meant as a tool to open the door to a conversation. So it's not necessarily that you need to have a long list of questions that you go through with him. You just need a few to sort of get the ball rolling and start the conversation. And then you can see where this takes you and what are the different areas that you explore together. So that was number 2. Number 3 is show him trust. And again, before you freak out, I just want to really emphasize that we're talking about not a deep and unconditional trust, but trust on some very small and light areas. Because, of course, it takes time to develop trust. It really takes a lot of time to develop the kind of trust that you want to have in a long-term relationship. You can't give him that in early dating, but you can show him trust in some small areas that shows him that you are open to trusting him and you are okay expressing that. It really means a lot for a man that a woman trusts him. Actually, he's going to want to live up to that trust, and it really can empower a man when he knows that we trust him. So that is so, so important. And I want to share 3 different ways you can show trust in early dating before you actually know him very well. So you can see what I mean when I say it's in a light way. The first way to show him trust is that you are open to what he suggests. You show him that you trust when he invites you on a date somewhere, or in a bar, in a cafe, in a restaurant, on a gallery, or whatever he chooses for you. Instead of mentioning, "Oh, I know a better place," or "I know something else. What if we go over there? I have a better idea." Then instead of doing that, you just decide to try out what it is he suggests. You might even know that there's a better restaurant just next to, but put that aside. This is not about the restaurant. This is about meeting him and seeing what he wants to offer to you. So show him that trust and agree to go where it is he wants to go, and then tell him, "I don't know that place, but I trust you to find a good place for us. I trust that you have a good idea. I trust when you recommend this." Express it. Express that you trust him. He's going to want to really live up to that again, and it's going to boost his confidence and make him feel that this is a connection that has potential. She's a woman who can trust me. It is a really big turnoff for a man if a woman doesn't want to trust him. It's almost like smacking the door in his face. He doesn't feel interested in a woman who does that. So if you cannot even trust him to choose a place to go on one of the first dates, it's almost like rejecting him from the beginning. So that was one way to do it. Another way you can also show him trust is just in the words, in the way you talk to him. And you can create a little moment of intimacy where you tell him, "I feel like I can trust you to share this," or "I don't normally share this on the first date, but I feel I can trust you." Or you can say, "Can I trust you to share something personal with you?" And then you tell him something. Doesn't have to be really, I mean, it shouldn't be really vulnerable or very private. You don't want to share very private information on the first date. Just a little thing, something about what you thought when you saw him first time, or what is something you are nervous about that you are going to do in the coming days, or something you really dream about, or something that has like a tiny, tiny, small part of vulnerability, but not a big thing, not a big, dark, deep secret. You don't want to share that. But it's the way you package it. It's the fact that you say, "I feel I can trust you. I normally don't share this, but I have a feeling I can trust you." Is a very good compliment to a man. And also, it can create those little moments of intimacy. So that was the second way you can show him trust early on. And the third one is just to ask him for his advice or his opinion about something, preferably that he knows something about. Maybe he shared something about his career or a passion he has. And then you ask him, "I would love to hear your opinion about this. Can I trust you for an advice?" And then you ask him something. You don't have to follow the advice, but you just show him that his opinion matters to you. And even if you are strong, independent, and very competent, and you do not need an advice from a man, he still can play a role in your life. He still can feel useful and he can feel needed, which is important for a man. So when you open up, you open a little door there when you ask him for advice or just asking him for his opinion about something. So those were 3 things that are relatively easy, 3 ways where you can relatively easy show him trust in early dating. And those were the 3 tools. So I can just quickly summarize. The first one was about making him feel great, making him feel good in your company, and doing it from the mindset of, "I am a woman who makes a man feel great. I'm a woman who can express my appreciation. I can always find something to compliment with a man." You want to show up as a woman who is warm and positive and approachable. That is what is in the feminine energy. And it's also, in my opinion, actually the best way to start a dating connection, that you bring this positive energy all the way from the beginning, instead of leaning back and waiting for him to show you how amazing he is before you show him appreciation or give him compliments. Don't do that. Don't wait for all that. Bring your own part as well. Take your own part of the responsibility in creating this fun and romantic connection. So that was the first one, make him feel great. And the second one was challenge him in a playful way. Think of some questions that are going to rock the boat a little bit or make him think, and where you want the answer and you want to share your answer as well. And some of them can be a little bit more heavy, and then you want to really ask them with a glimpse in the eye, and you want to really do it in a confident and playful way so that he doesn't feel intimidated and he doesn't feel like, now I'm being interviewed. Be careful with dosing the questions. Do the fun and light ones in the beginning. Just make him open up and talk a little bit. Ask him some icebreaker questions. Share something about the more silly part of yourself, things that makes you feel a little bit quirky, or things that are related to something very positive about having a day off and so on. And then use the more serious questions on a later date, like date number 3, but again, in a light tone. Don't make you feel like he's being interviewed for a job. And then the third one is showing him trust. So make him feel great, challenge him in a playful way, and show him trust. Those are 3 things. If you learn to integrate this in your dating life, in your own style, choose your own words, do it your own way, I promise you, you will have more fun on the dates and you will get invited more frequently than if you don't do any of this. And if there is a potential for a connection to develop into something where there's a little bit more fun, a little bit more chemistry going on, this is also a way of facilitating that. So then if you do this and then after 5 or 6 dates, you still don't feel there's any chemistry at all, you don't feel attracted at all to him, and it feels still very boring and it feels like you're the only one who's bringing the fun, you can quit then and you can say, okay, I tried. At least I tried. I did not miss out on something. But I really want you to think about what you could be potentially missing out on if you're not doing this. Think about the guys where you feel that this is just too bad because he's ticking all the boxes, he's doing all the right things, but I just don't feel attracted to him. This is the kind of guy where you want to explore, you want to get curious, and want to see what is the potential in this connection, how can it develop. Now, the 2 bonus tools is very basic, and this is something that I want you to think about bringing into all your relationships, not only with a man, not only romantic relationships, also friendships. And number 1 is be present. And when we talk about dating context, being present means do not have a lot of analytical thoughts going on about the man while you're on the date. Try to just focus on the moment now and what he's saying and be in the conversation. All the stuff where you think about what did he say, did he do I like him or not, is he a yes or a no, you can do that afterwards. Don't bring that to the date. And also, don't worry about thinking about all the things you want to tell him about yourself and what you have achieved in life and your career and so on. When we are very much in this energy where we want to share all this, and it's understandably because you are proud of all the things you did and you should be. But if you are on a date and you're having all these thoughts about, I need to tell him this and this and this, and this is going to impress him, you're almost trying to sell yourself. It's almost like you're the one who's at a job interview, you're trying to get the job, and you are trying to sell yourself and convince him or prove your worth to him. And that's a little bit a desperate energy that you want to stay away from. And even if you have achieved a lot of things in life, this is not what's going to draw him to you. It's not your career. It's not how much money you make or the house you have or the car. It's all really good that you have all this. But for a man, this is not what's going to make him feel that you're the right woman for him. It is your personality. It is your warmth. It is how he feels when he's with you. So forget about telling him all this. You can always let him know. You can drop it bit by bit as you go on more dates. At the moment when you are on a date, you want to just be present with him and really listen to what he says and try to understand who is the person behind here. Is it someone where I like the way he's thinking, I like the way he's resonating, I like his values, I like his motivation, I like what's going on inside him. This is what you want to focus on instead of what do I need to say next and what are all the things I need to share. Even if, of course, it can feel tempting and you want to share, put it aside. Don't bring that energy. Don't bring that convincing energy. Just be present with him. And this leads me to the next bonus tip. Be curious. Do not assume that you know already after 3 minutes what kind of person he is and whether you will ever be attracted to him. First impressions don't always last, and I've seen it so many times and I've experienced myself as well. You do not know after 3 minutes whether this is a potential match for you. You need to give it more time, and you cannot assume things, especially not early on. And even I would say, always be careful assuming that you think you know what the person thinks and why and what is driving them. Always ask questions instead. So, curiosity is such a good trait to bring to a date. Ask him questions. Ask him, why do you mean that? Why do you say that? Why do you feel passionate about that? Instead of assuming, oh, I know this kind of person. He does that and he's driven by that and so on, and he's never going to be a match for me. Never assume things like that. Always ask questions. Be curious. So, and that opens up a lot of doors. And also, curiosity is actually the opposite, is the antidote to judgment. Because judgment is where we make a conclusion and we close the door and we say, I know the answer here. This is the way it is. And curiosity is the opposite, right? We open the door, we say, I don't know. I'm so curious. I want to learn more about this person. It's a great quality to bring to all your relationships and in particular in dating. So be present and be curious. Those are really important dating tools as well. This was all I had for you, and I hope you have enjoyed this masterclass. When you look in the PDF guide, you will find some more concrete scripts and ideas. Don't take them word by word. Find your own words, find your own style. Just use them as inspiration, and go out and try this. Give it a chance. You have nothing to lose. There is going to be situations where it will lift your dating life, will make it more fun. And maybe you will actually open up a door that shows you all of a sudden, here is a really good potential. And it turns out this guy is so much more fun than I thought. Now I start to feel a little bit attracted to him. So I know also for myself, this can happen, and it can happen after several weeks. It's not just like that all the time. Let me know how it goes. I would love to hear from you. Send me an email or contact me on Instagram and let me know if you tried all of these tools or if you tried some of them and how it changed your dating life. Thank you for listening all the way to the end.